You're listening to The Art of Imperfect Adulting. I'm your host, Amy Stone. Here, I share stories from real people navigating the adventure that I call adulting. Are you ready? Me too. Let's do this. Hello, friends. In this episode, I'm going to introduce you to Kandas Rodarte. And what we talk about is her story of starting a coaching business after she received a diagnosis of metastatic breast cancer when she was 44, and how she continues to thrive and inspire more than a decade later. Now, I do want to share that this interview is a little bit of a peek into another side of me, your host, Amy. I am very lucky that Kandas and I have had the chance over the last couple of years to both connect and to collaborate on a variety of projects. And what that means for you, the listener of this interview, is that instead of me running this conversation like the well-oiled interview that I usually bring you, what you are going to hear is me shooting off into little side tangents all along the way with Kandas. And if you are curious, that is very much what it's like to actually have a conversation with me in real life. We do talk about her move from California to the shores of Lake Michigan. We talk about the unexpected joys and challenges of crocheting and finding a good yarn shop. We talk about her passion that shows through of helping women change the world through business ownership. And we go deep, deep, deep into the transformative role of gratitude and how that plays a part in her life and her work. So, are you ready? Me too. Let's do this. Kandas Rodarte, welcome to The Art of Imperfect Adulting. Are you ready for a fun chat?
Maybe. Yes.
Maybe. I've always been wondering what would happen if somebody was like, oh, no.
No, actually, I really enjoy chatting with you. So yes, of course I am.
No, we are lucky enough. We've had a chat before. I was on Kandas's show well over a year ago. And so I actually know that the challenge in today's conversation is going to be to keep it under the deadline, keep it under the time frame, and keep it mildly on any sort of relevant topic to what we're talking about, because you and I could just talk together forever.
Well, I'll do my best to stay on topic. I'm not going to make any promises, though.
I would never ask you to make that promise. All right. Share with everybody. I start every interview with asking people where they call home. What part of the world are you in?
Oh, well, calling home and where I live are two different things.
All right.
So I am a California girl who lives in Michigan. I live in West Michigan on the Lake Michigan Lakeshore. So it has all of the benefits of California without the price and the smell of fish, because it's a freshwater lake and not a ocean.
Fair enough, but the water's cold in Michigan.
In the summertime, it's not so cold. In the winter, yeah, it freezes, and there's these beautiful icebergs that show up on the lake, and it's absolutely breathtakingly gorgeous.
Michigan is really pretty. Michigan is really pretty. I have a kid that's living in Ann Arbor right now. So over this last summer, we actually went to Mackinac Island. So, because it's a whole thing to go to the Upper Peninsula, right?
Yeah.
The UP. And that's just over, we were 100 yards into the UP, right? Like just over the bridge. But we did make a point to go into the water, and we were cold. So maybe it's the Floridian in me that I'm not set for Michigan water. I could get used to it.
That's Lake Huron, not Lake Michigan. It's a different lake.
Yeah. So is Lake Michigan warmer?
I think it might be. I mean, Lake Superior never gets above freezing, but Lake Michigan, because we have so much lakeshore, I mean, there's miles and miles and miles and miles of lakeshore. So it's a long, skinny lake, so it doesn't have the opportunity to get as cold, I think, as the ones that are bigger or rounder.
Okay.
The rounder lakes.
The rounder
I don't know.
lakes.
I've only lived in Michigan for 8 years. It's a whole new thing for me.
A whole new thing. A whole new thing. All right. So in a second, we're going to start the official interview and topic, but I want to ask you to share with the audience and with me something about you that's a hobby, a pastime, a passion that's not related to family or work.
I'm a hooker.
Are you?
I crochet. It is the way.
Because those two things, oh my gosh, those two things are exactly alike. I am a sex worker. No, I
crochet.
All right, very good, very good. I would like to see a market research report that's never going to be done, but I am signing up to do this research. percentage of sex workers and body workers who do crochet and knit. I think that
Oh,
would be an interesting
that is an interesting. A
because
lot
there's
more
no
people.
reason that you couldn't. Like, I mean, right?
Well, let's say it's an ancient hobby. I mean, people were
Yeah.
crocheting. Crocheting, I think, is older than knitting, but they were crocheting 1,000 years ago, right?
Right.
So it's an ancient hobby, but lately it's been revitalized. I've been doing it since I was 15, so you're like I was ahead of the curve. Right now it's trendy, but but it really is. It's peaceful. You have to kind of count when you're doing it, so
Okay.
it's a way to find mindfulness,
Yeah.
meditation, Zen. It's just, you know, and when my husband, if my husband and I are watching TV together and I'm crocheting and he starts talking to me, I go 7, 8, 9, so he knows that he can't talk to me right then.
I'm mid count. It is a very relaxing thing. Knitting and crocheting. They're less popular in the super warm places because we don't, there's not as much that we can crochet down here. We don't need any socks and we don't need heavy blankets and we don't do the sweaters, you know. So there aren't as many stores, you know, there's just not as many supplies. There's not as
You know,
many.
I think that the number of yarn shops, like independently owned yarn shops, is going down, down, down. At least we don't have one here where I live. And then we just lost Joanne.
Yeah.
So,
I think everybody
you
lost
know,
your end. Yeah.
the only place I have left to shop, because I won't shop at the other place, the only
Hmm.
place I have left to shop is Walmart. That's the only place that carries yarn. So,
Really?
yeah.
So yeah, I went through a phase where I was the phase where you know people who are having babies. I went through a phase where I was knitting baby blankets as presents, and so. But then when I got to a point where I was like, no, I'm finished. I've made the same blanket enough times. I
I
need a new hobby.
Yeah, I graduated to sweaters when I moved to Michigan. I never
Yeah.
wanted to make one before I lived here because I lived in Texas.
Right.
But
Well,
now,
see, that's the thing.
yeah.
I would love to take that on as a project, but I need a wool sweater like I need another pair of boots that I wear once a year, you
Well,
know.
I'm learning that you can make sweaters for the spring and the summer too.
All right. Well, sign me up.
I
Sign me
have
up
I
as
have
the
I have I went to Joanne. I got a whole bunch of yarn that you need to use a C hook for, which is teeny tiny tiny tiny. And I am going to make myself a summer sweater.
All right. I look forward to seeing it. All right. Crochet is not the topic of the day, although we did just go completely off track. The topic of the day is you choosing to launch a business, a coaching business, after you were diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer at the age of 44. Are you ready to talk about that today?
Oh, yeah, and I'm 55 now, so that was a while ago.
So that was one of the questions that I had was how long ago it was. Because anytime I talk to somebody about a health diagnosis or something like that, I want to not be like holding out the information about like how healthy are you, how are you doing, but so you are living with this is where we are with
Yes, I
this.
am living with this. I, I, I'm sorry, we're just gonna go off topic a couple of times. We've already done it. We're probably 25 minutes into the interview and you haven't even asked me the real question yet.
No, I started it. I'm getting close. Okay, go on. Go on.
So, in terms of my health, there is this amazing drug that was developed because the company Revlon decided to invest in the research for it. And if Revlon hadn't have invested in the research, this research would not have been done. This is just an amazing story of knowing the right people and getting the work done. But it has saved hundreds of thousands of lives around the world. Well, I'm going to say extended the lives of hundreds of thousands of women and men, because men get breast cancer too
Men get
around the
breast
world. It's
cancer
called
too.
Herceptin. They even made a movie about this drug. But it is a story. This drug was not going to, that they were pulling the funding for it. And the doctor is like, I am so close. I know I can save lives with this. And he just happened to know the wife of the CEO of Revlon. And Revlon said, sure, we'll pay for it. And
Whoa.
yeah. And so because of Revlon, I and hundreds of thousands of other women are living these long, glorious lives when our diagnosis was a death sentence before.
That is amazing. I did not know that. I think that's exactly on topic actually, like because what I was going to start with is to ask you if you it's like a real pragmatic question because there are real people listening to the interview, walking us through the story or the sequence of events that led up to you getting the original diagnosis. Like, were you in the shower doing a self-exam that none of us actually do, or what was the process that got you to the point where you got this very, very shocking diagnosis?
So I was just gotten out of the shower and I was getting dressed and I opened the closet. There's no bras hanging where my bras are supposed to be. I'm like, crap, I forgot to grab them out of the laundry room. So I basically put my hands over my boobs and I walked to the laundry room and with my thumb, I felt an apricot sized something that wasn't there
Oh,
the last time I'd felt my boobs. And my husband was home and I was like, feel this. And we were like, okay, we got to go to the doctor. Well, but here's the story. I hadn't had health insurance because my husband and I were self-employed. I mean, we had
right.
owned a business for 15 years at that point. We had never bothered to get health insurance for ourselves. And the Affordable Care Act had been passed the year before, and we had applied for it. And I found this lump the same month that our Affordable Care Act health insurance went into effect.
Proof that you are a good person and that things were lining up for you. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't 3 months later, it was the same
Same
month.
month. Oh
I
my
did not
gosh.
have health insurance the month before. I had
Yeah.
health insurance that month. And it was a hassle because the ACA was new, doctors didn't know what to do with it. I mean, there was a lot of crying involved trying to find a doctor and all that, but eventually I found a, a very competent, amazing doctor, an oncologist. He'd graduated at the top of his class from MD Anderson, and he had been a Jewish refugee in the country of Uzbekistan as a child,
Wow.
and he and his mother had lived in this uh, refugee camp. Had lived in this refugees camp when he was young, and they made it to the United States, and he became one of the top doctors in the Houston area.
Wow. Wow. Well, Houston is, if you're going to get, I mean, if you're going to get cancer, Houston is a good place to be. People
Uh,
move to Houston.
having moved to Michigan,
Yeah.
I'm going to argue that
Okay.
Michigan's a better place.
I will accept that. I will accept that because I'm not actually qualified to talk about it. I just know that there are people who do relocate to the Houston area because it is a pocket for treatment.
Yes, but
So yeah. So,
but
but
the
also,
University of Michigan is doing some amazing work on breast cancer, and Michigan is a much better place to live than Texas.
I'm gonna peacefully not weigh in on that. I've already said how much I like. So I mention this all the time. I have somebody living in Michigan right now, and I knew exactly nothing, really, honestly, about Michigan, very much. I had been to Michigan as a teenager, sort of I worked there and very close to Chicago, but it was officially in Michigan. But that was it. I didn't know anything about it. And having somebody live there, I've had been lucky enough to do see a lot of the things, and it's just got some very, very cool things about it. It's just got some,
Hmm.
I just really, but you will laugh at this, Candace, because you live in Michigan. First time we went, flew in there, and I was like on the airplane, like waiting for my watch to change time because I felt like, I'm all the way east and all the way south. And I was like, this cannot possibly be in the same time zone. And it is, it's an East Coast time. And I was like tapping my watch. I was like, something has gone wrong. And then somebody on the plane was like, no, it's East Coast time here. It's Eastern time. And I was like, that's not that. I need to look at a map. Where
Yeah,
am I?
it doesn't make any sense. And so because I'm on the west coast of Michigan, the sun sets here in the summertime at 10:30.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that. I absolutely believe that. I
Yeah,
do.
it doesn't make sense to me. It should be in Central Time Zone, but and parts of Indiana are East Coast, Eastern Time Zone, and parts of Indiana are Central, and then Illinois is Central. So when you drive to Chicago from here, you just it's weird. It's
It
just
is
weird.
weird. I think does Indiana change time? Or is that the one? Is that the state that doesn't? Is that one of the states that doesn't?
Half of Indiana is East Coast, Eastern Time Zone, and half of Indiana is Central Time Zone.
Okay, that just to make it confusing. Go
Yeah.
Indiana. Yay, Hoosiers. All right. So you mentioned this. So you actually, I would give you credit for doing the self-exam. You found the lump and then you took action and you got the
wasn't
diagnosis.
wasn't necessarily a self-exam, but I
Well,
found it. Yeah.
I like I mean, I there you go. That had to be scary in the moment
Yeah.
to
Well, it was weird. I had all these rationale in my head. Oh, it's just a cyst. It's nothing. It couldn't nothing. I couldn't have come on that fast because I mean it was the size of an apricot.
right.
So it grew fast. So I was like,
Yeah.
it can't be cancer because cancer wouldn't have grown that fast, right? And yeah, so I had all this rationale in my head that it was nothing.
And then it turned out to be something, 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 something. Okay, so before this happened, you mentioned that you guys were self-employed. What was it that I don't know if you and your husband were doing the same thing or different things, but what were you doing as your career, job, profession, business?
So my husband and I were crazy. We met each other on the internet, so we thought it would be a good idea in 1998. In 1998, we thought it'd be a really good idea to have an internet-based business. He is a world-class custom furniture maker. He's made furniture for movie stars, Fortune 500 executives. But at the time, he was young and scrappy, and I was young and scrappy, and we both were arrogant, and we thought we could do this. So we launched the very first website on the internet where you could custom order a bed or a dresser or a TV stand made to order. No one else did it before we did. And eventually everybody copied us. I mean, all these other people saw what we were doing and they literally copied everything we did. Some of them even stole our photos.
Wow.
One person copy and pasted our About Us page.
I mean,
imitation. What is it?
Imitation is
flattery.
Yeah,
but
most honest
theft is
form of
theft.
flattery, right?
Theft is theft.
That's one of those quotes. I should look it up because that's one of those quotes that we only use the first half of it, right? Like, so it's like imitation is the most sincere form of flattery, but da 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 da. It goes on to be like, you're not doing your own thing. And I should memorize the second half of it if I'm going to talk about it. So
honestly, I don't know what the second half is either. So yeah, we did that for up until we moved to Michigan. We retired when we moved to Michigan, but within the first 5 or 6 years, we had distribution in 40 stores across 25 states.
Wow!
And we had built this really amazing business, and then 2008 hit, and everybody knows what happened in 2008. So we had to make it. We were getting fewer and fewer orders from retail stores. And something weird happened. We got a phone call from, it was in Elle Decor magazine. So I'm going to go ahead and name drop. So we got a phone call from Mark Badgley, who is one of the co-owners of Badgley Mishka, which is this company that makes gorgeous wedding dresses for the top 1% of the world, right? And they needed a bed for their home that they were building at the time in Kentucky. They bought a ranch in Kentucky or a horse farm in Kentucky, and they lived in New York, and this was where they were going to go for their weekends or whatnot. And so we made a bed for their home in Kentucky, and Elle Decor magazine calls a few months later and says, we need information about your company. We're going to feature your bed in Elle Decor. And that, along with the 2008 recession, gave us the push to say we're not going to sell wholesale anymore. There's no money there right now. We're going to focus on clients like Mark Badgley, and we're going to market to people like Mark Badgley, and that's where we're going to focus our attention. And so 2009 was one of our best years.
So sort of like high-end bespoke custom furniture for discerning people know what they want.
Yeah, and awesome. one of his beds that he made is actually in a music video. It's in a Faith Hill and Tim McGraw music video, and he's in museums. Yeah, he's very talented, and that was what we did. And then in 2017, we moved to Michigan and retired.
Very, very cool. All right, so if I had known you when you were a kid, like 12 years old, and asked you what you wanted to be when you grew up as a job, what would you have said?
An archaeologist.
Ooh, really? A la Indiana Jones?
Mm-hmm. Do you want to hear something really cool?
I do.
My daughter has a master's in paleontology.
Oh, fun.
And I know that archaeology and paleontology are not the same thing. But
digging around in the dirt for old things.
She does. She actually prefers the behind the scenes stuff, like the cataloging and the
in the museums.
But when she went to graduate school, the place where she worked was a repository, a national repository for dinosaur bones. And so when we dropped her off at college, we got a tour of this repository, and there were triceratops skulls and all these femur bones and all these bones from these huge dinosaurs. And we were just right there. These weren't the casts. These were the actual.
Yes, exactly.
These are the actual bones that hadn't been categorized yet. And it's like,
Very
It's
cool.
crazy amazing. But the thing is, there are so many bones that are just sitting in these repositories because there's not enough funding to do all the category work.
I believe
That,
that. I believe that.
yeah,
I was pretty old before I realized that the bones that we looked at in the museum that are on display were not usually the actual bones, that they were casts. I remember just that was like a shocking revelation to me when at some point a docent was like, no, these are not the actual bones, Amy. The actual bones are stored in places where people like, you cannot touch them. And I was like, this makes sense, but I had never,
yeah.
had
But
never thought about it.
there's even more bones that haven't even people don't even know what's in them.
Yeah.
There's several of these repositories around the country.
Yeah.
So, it's just amazing. And who knows what might be in there that they forgot about.
Right. No, and I do like it. So, like, they rename the dinosaurs as they find more things sometimes about them to give credit for things that are, they learn new things. It's particularly confusing, though, like if you know a name for a dinosaur and then you have young children or grandchildren and they're like, no, this is not the name of this. This is other new name. And I'm like, are they out there inventing new dinosaurs? Maybe. Maybe they are. And if
A
so,
brontosaurus will always be a brontosaurus. I don't know what it is
I
now.
think it's the Allosaurus now.
Yes. Okay.
Right? Or the
Thank you.
Allopatosaurus. But that's the one. That's the one because that's the Flintstones one. I was like, no, this is a Brontosaurus. And my kids were like, no, it is not. And I was like, yes, yes. I
My
was wrong.
daughter's graduate work was not done with dinosaurs. It was beavers and microscopic animals.
Oh,
So yeah, she didn't. So, but she does have her favorite dinosaurs.
as everyone
Paleontology,
should.
paleontology is the study of animal bones. It is
Okay.
not the study of dinosaurs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I would
So
have
there's
gotten that wrong. If that was a Jeopardy question, I would have gotten it wrong. I would have gotten it wrong. I would have totally said dinosaurs. All right. So you wanted to be an archaeologist and dig in the dirt and find old things. All right. So back to talking about cancer and the reason I was asking about the jobs is because we're going to talk about you starting this new business after you got a cancer diagnosis. I want to go on to this. Like you were nice enough to talk to us about the treatment and the medicine and want to make sure that we're not talking about something that the audience doesn't know. What does it mean when we say metastatic cancer? So you got a diagnosis of metastatic cancer. What did that mean?
so metastatic means that the type of cancer you have has moved beyond the area where that cancer normally is. So if you have metastatic lung cancer, that means you have lung cancer in your liver.
Right. It's
If you
moved on.
have metastatic liver cancer, that means that you have liver cancer in your bladder, right?
Right.
It's moved beyond the area where it normally is found. So metastatic breast cancer means breast cancer that's moved outside of the breast. A lot of times it goes to the lungs, goes to the brain, goes to the bones. I have it's in my lungs. I mean, yeah, it's in both of my lungs. Very tiny, microscopic. I've been very stable for 10 years. No
Yeah.
changes have happened.
And this is important because it changes how you're going to treat it, right?
Yeah.
It changes how you're going to treat it. Okay, so you got this diagnosis over a decade ago. Talk me through because you had a choice here, right? You could have just continued doing what you're doing the treatment, working in the home business, or even relaxing and just, I'm going to read books and just, do this. But you didn't. You decided to start a coaching business. So talk me through how those two things are related.
So I have to go back to the early 2000s. I don't know if you know this or not, but back in the early 2000s, there was this thing called Yahoo groups.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So these
Yes. This is in the time of reply to all and other fantastic. It was a unique time to be online. But yes,
Yes.
Yahoo groups.
So
Yes.
Yahoo groups are a lot like a Facebook group where people who are like-minded would hang out together. But instead of communicating the way that we do on Facebook, those messages came to your email.
Right.
So you would join a group and then you would get an email digest of everything that happened in the group. So I joined a group called Mom Pack,
Could be.
something like that. Anyway, I joined this group called Mom Pack, and the woman who ran it, her name was Lynn, she reached out and she said, Candace, most of the women in this group are women who have network marketing businesses. And you and I have businesses that pay for our families. Like our businesses were substantial. They
Right.
were the income from our family. And there was a handful of other women who were in the same position where our businesses were more than just a side hustle,
Yep.
right? And so we joined together and we created Super Whams, Super Work at Home Moms with a Z on the end. And I think if you go to superwhams.blogspot.com, it's still there. But we had a blog.
All right.
I mean, we had a little group. All of our kids were about the same age, and we were just the support system for each other. Well, Alicia, who is a jewelry maker in the group, she says to me, I will never forget this. She says to me, you know, Candace, you should start a business. And this is the early 2000s. You should start a business where you teach other women how to have a business.
Okay.
And I was like, that's not a business.
Right. You were like, I'm not sure that's a thing.
That's not a real thing. What are you talking about? And I just blew it off. But obviously it made an impact on me because 17 years later, or no, 10 years later, I don't know how many years later, I get diagnosed with breast cancer. And the first thing I say to myself is, you know, I don't know how much time I have left. Alicia was right. I have something to share with the world, and I need to be sharing it. So while my husband and I were still running our custom furniture business, I started a business coaching practice.
Very good. And so the business coaching was teaching people who wanted to create a business for themselves. And that is absolutely true. In any group of women businesses, you've got like a really big divide of people. You've got like some people who are professionals, who are in professional trades, and then you've got people who are working on, now we're calling them solopreneur things. These are side hustles, usually. And you've got people who are signing on to sell products other people make for commission, which are sometimes multi-level marketing things. And then you have a few people who have like traditional businesses that are product-based or service-based that are substantial. But all of those things will be in a group of people, and figuring out where you fit into that group is sometimes a little tricky. Sometimes a little tricky.
And you've got, and it's, you get, I love when you have a dynamic group, because you get ideas off of each other.
Yeah.
And you're going to learn things from each other that you might not learn if you're only hanging out with people that are just like you.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. And I think that now, like, we're not in the early 2000s, we're in 2025. I was in a conversation the other day and they referred to the early 2000s as the aughts. And I was like, you're talking about 1900? Like I was like, what? She was like, oh, you're talking about 2000. Okay. All right. I understand.
That was 25 years ago.
It was 25. It's correct. It was just an adjustment in my head. You know, it's just an adjustment in my head for date wise. But it's like everything is very specific now. So like everything is very siloed and you can find yourself in when you get in that very tight niche group and you're surrounding yourself with people who are all doing the same thing you're doing, it's like it becomes an echo chamber of the same information. It's not always helpful. Sometimes it's really helpful. Sometimes it's not.
Yeah, I agree. So earlier this week, I attended this is really very relevant to the story that we're talking about right now. So earlier this week, I attended a writing workshop with Rachel Allen, who owns Bolt from the Blue Copywriting. And it was about writing your profile, your About Me profile. And everybody else in the workshop, when we got to the area to the time where we were writing our About Me's, everybody else in the group wrote beautiful About Me's. Yeah. And I was stuck, right? And so Rachel was like, well, let's talk this through. And I just blurted. And I went on this fiery, passionate rampage, right? I believe that women can change the world and they can do that through business ownership. And I want to help women become business owners so we can change the world together. But I couldn't write that down on paper, but see how easy that was for me to say?
Yeah.
But that is how I felt in 2000. Yeah. That's how I felt in 2014. That's how I feel right now. I think that women need to own businesses because we really can change the world and we can make it better for everybody, including men. Men will be better if women owned more businesses.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the things, like, I agree with you. I agree with you. I absolutely do. And one of the things that was no, I love it. I love it. One of the things that I think is really interesting is the first couple of times where so we call these mission-driven businesses, right? And so like the first time you say out loud, like, I want to change the world. The first time somebody said that to me a million years ago, I was like, I am me. Like what do I I don't know how much of the world I need to be changing. But now the way I think about that is both of those things are true, but we always start with our circle of one. Like when you first change your world, you're changing your world, like the just right here in the space that you're in right now. And making the decision to define and design your own life by starting a business, by taking control of that, that is designing your world. That is changing. That's
Hmm.
a fundamental shift
Hmm.
of putting yourself in control of that. And that is really important for all kind of things. Okay, so you
Wait, hold
decide,
on.
go on.
I want to give you some props right now because imperfect adulting is so needed right now.
Yeah.
I was watching TV the other day and there was this clothing commercial where everybody in the commercial was perfect. Everything was perfect. And that's not reality.
No.
And we need to stop thinking that things have to be perfect for things to be good.
Yeah, and there's layers of that. So I've got all these kids in my family, stepkids and kids. And many, many years ago, I had a catalog it was a website actually. It was a website open for a triathlon clothing brand that I adore and love. It's called Core Sports, and their owner is a really body positive person. She just is like this is before it was an all sizes kind of movement. Anyway, this website is just open, and one of these like adolescents that's running around in the house, she sees it and she's like, "Oh my God, that person looks like me," because it was not size zero pro athlete. It was like a person wearing a swimsuit. And she was surprised and empowered to see somebody that looked like her represented in an advertisement for a swimsuit. And that's the kind of thing. Like it's like we can become the things that we see modeled for us. And there's a disconnect a lot of times between what we see in our homes and our houses and our lives and what's on media. And it's very helpful to bring those things together.
Yeah. I'm all about empowering people to wear what they feel comfortable
Oh
in
my God, yes.
and not forcing people to wear styles that aren't right for them. Like I, I don't feel comfortable in a bathing suit that's
Yeah,
too skimpy. I want to cover up my body, you know, from the knees to the top. I don't want anything hanging out, right? But I want to be able to enjoy swimming without worrying that I'm going to fall out of my bathing suit. And a lot of times they don't consider that when they make plus size bathing suits. They
yeah,
just try to take the skinny size and they try to, just adapt that. They just make it bigger. They make the clothing for skinny people bigger, which doesn't
right.
always work.
Doesn't always work. So I'm like, so you lived in Texas, you grew up in California, I'm in Florida. We wear swimsuits all year long. And I'm very like, it's like, I'm like, yes, no, fine. Like I'm very, modesty is not my thing. I will wear, but I have a full range. I have swimsuits for like sitting on the beach. I have swimsuits for swimming. I have swimsuits that are like it's like a full bodysuit for snorkeling and scubaing when the sea lice are out so that nothing touches me, right? I'm like
Yeah.
totally covered.
Yeah.
Like I'm like I want to be submerged and not have any contact with any of the things that can bite me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it should all be there. All right. So would you say
That
so
was
there's
one of
a
those asides, sorry.
no, it's totally fine. Would you say so there's a theme with your coaching business, which is gratitude, right? The
Mhm.
gratitude geek. Would you say that you were a person who celebrated gratitude before your diagnosis and it got stronger with this diagnosis? Or would you say that you discovered it and leaned into it as a part of the diagnosis?
I discovered it and leaned into it after the diagnosis.
And how, talk us through that, because I think that I don't know that the first place I would go would be gratitude. Maybe it would, because I haven't been through it.
Okay. Okay. So it's been more than 10 years and the thing that they call chemo brain is a real thing.
Yeah.
So I have to really reconnect some neurons here.
All right, let's do it. Let's walk it back.
But so in 2012, I joined a network marketing company called Send Out Cards, which is a
Yep.
greeting card and gift platform, because I needed that tool to send thank you cards and gifts to my furniture clients. And I thought it was so groovy that I shared it with people. And then the next thing I know, I'm in the top 100 consultant. I'm one of the top 100 consultants for this company, right? Um, that was I still use that tool every week, every
You
month.
sent me a
But
card through that when I was on your
yeah,
show.
so
Yeah.
I still use this tool. I'm just not promoting it the way I did. But
Yeah.
I'm telling you this part of the story because it's important. So When my husband and I first launched, we had a website through a designer in South Carolina. And she called me one day and said, I'm selling my business because I've got a lot going on. And I went, oh, I'll buy it. So I
Okay.
bought her web design and hosting business in like 2001 or 2002. And I bought this domain Mom Geek because I was a mom and I was a geek. So I sold the web design and hosting business. So I've always done more than one thing, obviously. So I sold the web design and hosting business in 2008, but I kept the domain name because it had become part of my identity. But I didn't do anything with it until 2012 when I had a reason to blog, and the reason to
Yeah.
blog was these are reasons why you need to incorporate gratitude into your business, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I was blogging about in 2012. But then I was like, well, Mom Geek really doesn't talk about the benefits of the greeting cards. I need a new name. And so I went, oh, Gratitude Geek.
Gratitude Geek.
Let's call myself Gratitude Geek. And so I had momgeek.com and I pointed gratitudegeek.com to it. And I just started sharing gratitudegeek.com. I think I even launched a podcast. I did this talk show. I mean, there was all this stuff around. My podcast was first launched to promote the greeting card business. All this stuff going on. And then I'm diagnosed with cancer. I'm really not a believer. I haven't stepped into being the Gratitude Geek yet. I just bought the domain name because it sounded good.
Okay.
There was alliteration there, right? And then after I was diagnosed, these amazing things happened to me. Like I rank advanced sitting in a chemo chair. I rank advanced to one of the top 100 consultants in the company sitting in a chemo chair receiving an infusion.
Wow.
People were sending me cards and gifts, uplifting cards, all the time because, when you're in a group of card senders, people send you cards, right?
That makes sense.
I was receiving cards every day. I just started to feel what I had been calling myself. I had been calling myself something that I wasn't. And then I started to feel it. And then I started to do it. And I would sit in that chemo chair and I brought my laptop with me because back then we didn't have a phone app to send cards, but now we do. And I would send cards while I was sitting in the chemo chair, receiving infusions. I'd be sending cards from my computer using using the hospital's Wi-Fi, right? And then I stepped into it. I stepped into it, but I was calling myself Gratitude Geek before I was living being the Gratitude Geek.
That's really interesting. So it's like it spoke to you, you liked it for the alliteration, and then when you leaned into it, you began to experience what are the benefits. So people promote gratitude all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gratitude journals, gratitude challenges, all of these things. And, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But I feel sometimes the same way I do when people are like peaceful parenting and all of these things. I'm like, I think there are probably flashes of moments in time when maybe not so peaceful. I know I am, right? Not so peaceful. I love gratitude, but there are times where it is really hard for me to call that up and live it. So I'm going to ask you if there are moments in time in your life, even somebody who's so invested and believes so much in gratitude, are there flashes of time where it is hard for you to reach out and hold on to the idea of gratitude? And what are some of the things that you then, as someone who practices, try to do or lean into in those moments?
Well, I am not perfect. I am perfectly imperfect. And just because I think something is fantastic doesn't mean that I always do it, right? I think it's a great idea to, run every day like you do.
Right.
But I never do it.
And the only reason I do it is because I love it, right? Like I do it because it's like, so I know
Yeah,
other people
it's yours.
don't.
It's your zen. It's your way to be mindful.
Yes.
Everybody has their thing. But yeah, okay. So tips. I have an alarm set on my phone. It's 10:09 and I'm supposed to do 8 things when that happens, right? I'm supposed to think about 3 things that I'm grateful for, take my pills, because I have to take my pills every night, because, you got to take your pills.
Yeah, take your medicine.
And then take 5 deep breaths. Is that right? No, 4 deep breaths. 4 deep breaths, take my pills, 3 things I'm grateful for. And that's 8, right? So
I think
10,
so.
9, 8. Okay. Yeah. Do I do it every night? No. Do I do it 1 out of 10 nights? Yes. Do I remember to take my pills every night because the alarm goes off? Yes. Am I grateful that I remember to take my pills every night? Yes. Because those pills are one of the reasons why I'm here, right?
Yes.
And when I do my deep breathing, do I feel great? Yes. Do I do my deep breathing every night? No. Do I think of, I think about 3 things I'm grateful for, but a lot of times it's just my husband my house and my daughter, right?
Yep.
Because that's what comes to top of mind first. But when I really think about it, it feels good, right?
Yeah.
So when you're feeling those times of ugh, a reset, and I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday. Oh, I was my podcast guest that I interviewed yesterday. Kim Beam is her name. And that episode will have been released. So Kim Beam, episode 268 of Gratitude Geek. She was talking about these gratitude bombs, where she just starts looking around her. I'm grateful for my ring light. I'm grateful for my computer. I'm grateful for my webcam. I'm grateful for my bottles of water. I'm grateful for my Star Wars coffee cup, right? She just keeps talking about how grateful she is about things. And then pretty soon you actually feel it. So
Yes.
I'm a fan of this gratitude bomb thing, because even if you don't feel it at the time, the faster you're saying these things that you're grateful for, the more you're going to feel it. And eventually it's just going to sink in and absorb.
It'll do.
So that's a new thing I just learned yesterday, but
Yeah. So the
I love
gratitude
this.
bomb, I've heard that called an avalanche, like a love avalanche.
Avalanche.
Yeah. An
I'd
avalanche.
never
Yeah.
heard of it before.
I've heard that. There's when I was in the thick of like living with lots of small mess makers in my house, there was a person who was like, bless this mess, like be grateful for the mess, right? Because you love your kids and you're grateful for the mess. And there were days where I would try that, Candace, and I'd be looking at the sink of dirty dishes, and I was like, no, I'm not actually thankful for this sink of dirty dishes. Love the kids, love the house, and I'd just be like, I'm gonna do
But
the dishes.
you were thankful for the food
Thankful for the
that
food.
made the dishes dirty.
Yeah.
And that's
thankful for the hot water to be able to clean the dishes. Thankful for the house. All of those things. But it was so funny that every once in a while it would just be like a complete disconnect in my head. And I was like, nope, not grateful for that. Thank you very much. Moving on.
I have to go to chemo every 3 weeks for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this for 10 years.
Wow.
And I could either resent it.
Yes.
Or I could appreciate the fact that I'm still here.
Yeah. And that you live in a time where it exists. And that you have the car to get you there, and the chair to sit in, and all those things. That's actually really good. Like, I'm being a little whiny when I complain about the dishes, and I give myself grace to be able to complain about it. I really do. But sometimes I'm better at manifesting that sensation of gratitude for the things that I have than others. Like, I will do that. I'm like super thankful for like my internet bill. I'm super thankful for, all of those things because I really love those things. And people are like, how can you be grateful for a bill? And I'm like, because since I pay this bill, I have all these toys I can play with. I'm super thankful for that.
So we just have lightning and thunder at the same time outside my window, right now.
Yep, I saw a flash.
So, warning.
You may disappear. That's all right. So let's do this. I want to give you a chance to directly tell people about what you do, because we've been talking about the fact that you made this decision. You started this business. You've got a podcast with 200 plus episodes. Tell people what you do and how they can find you and connect with you online.
Okay, so my podcast is at gratitudegeek.com, and my website is KandasRodarte.com. KandasRodarte. I know it's a weird name. I can't take any credit for any of that. Rodarte is my husband's last name. Candace was given to me at birth.
Yeah.
So for my coaching practice, I have a group coaching program called Robusta, and is for female solopreneurs. For the most part, the women in the group are over 50. Half of them have had breast cancer, which I don't know how. I think they hear my story about having breast cancer, and they want me as their coach. And it's a bi-weekly thing. It's 90 minutes. It's group coaching. We come together for the first 30 minutes. I teach something, a concept. We've been doing a lot of copywriting lessons lately. And then we spend 60 minutes doing mini mastermind. It's not true mastermind because everybody gets a chance to share in a love seat for 8 minutes or so.
I love the love seat. Love the love seat.
And so we give love seats to everybody. Sometimes people don't need a love seat that week, but there's lots of really valuable feedback. Sometimes people bring things that they're working on, like I designed this graphic, I need help, or do you like this new color swatch, or there's all sorts of things. And the women in the group are doing everything from launching a board game to, they're established already with a handmade product, or they teach exercise classes on the internet. So it's a really diverse group of women, and they're all super amazing. And they're all, I'm going to say over 40. They're all over 40, and women who own businesses like this can change the world. And it's uplifting. Everybody always leaves in a good mood. And, it's just that little, and it's super cost effective. It's $97 a month. It's probably the cheapest coaching anybody could possibly find,
Yep.
And it just, it's what these women need. It's what I need. And it might be what one of your listeners needs. So it's called Robusta.
Robusta. All right, very good. So, and you have a special offer for the audience, the listeners today, a 5-day gratitude journal, which will be available on your website, CandasRodarte.com. I want to thank you very much for that generous offer. For everybody who's listening, who just heard all about those things, that you're running, you're sitting in a chair, you don't have a pen, all of those things, the easiest way to get these links is to be subscribed to the Imperfect Adulting email list, because then I send it direct to your inbox and you just click on it, easy peasy. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Kandas, are you ready for the final 3 questions, the rapid fire random questions? Are you ready? Are you ready?
Lay it on me, baby.
All right, let's go. What is your favorite color?
Blue.
Good.
Midnight blue.
Midnight blue, dark blue. All right. What is the best birthday or holiday present that you have ever received? Thinking.
I like experiences over product.
Yep.
And I think that I know what it is. When I turned 40, my sisters, we all met in Dallas, and my sisters treated me to a American Idol concert. We went to this American Idol concert together, and we just had a great weekend. And
Super fun.
They gifted it to me as my 40th birthday present.
That is a great memory. All right, very good. What is a book that you have read more than once because you love it so much?
Candide by Voltaire.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I am impressed by that.
It is my favorite book, and every time I read it, I get something else out of it. The older I get, the more meaningful it is.
That is amazing. I love that answer. That's it. Kandas Rodarte, you have been a wonderful guest. Thank you so much today.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you for listening today. I hope that you enjoy the show. And before I go, I want to encourage you to become a bigger part of the conversation. Obviously, subscribe wherever you're listening to the show. Listen to more episodes. That'd be great. Again, please write a review and tell your friends about the show. That truly is a great help for getting the show in front of new people. Okay, but more fun for you yourself, head over to imperfectadulting.com and join the email community. You'll get some free stuff right away, and that way you'll begin to get the emails about the podcast. This includes the links for the special offers from the guests, and it's the only way to get that. Also, if you aren't in the mood to listen, I actually include an article directly in those emails. Whee! Now, if you love this and you crave more time with me, Amy, as a coach, a mentor, or just adultier adult, numero uno, check out The Village. If you have a story you want to share with the listeners, I'd love to hear from you. I have an open application. Just let me know you want it. And that's a wrap for today. Until next time, remember, the journey is the destination. Ralph Waldo Emerson said that, not me. Well, until just now, I did just say it. But what I want you to hear today is that if your adulting journey isn't going the way you expected, that may not mean that you're lost. It may just mean that you're on your way. This is Amy Stone, signing off. The Imperfect Adulting Podcast is created and produced by Amy Stone and Amy Says So. Anything expressed on this show is offered as entertainment, and the views of the guests may not always represent the ideas and viewpoints of the host. That's me. Amy does not intend or hold herself out to provide professional advice or recommendations of any kind. In the end, you and you alone need to make those kinds of decisions based on your personal and individual situation, needs, circumstances, and comfort level.